Hello, greetings and salutations, and welcome to Y.A.R.P episode 66. And we're talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the finale of our Quentin Tarantino arc. And I would let Charlotte from Charlotte's Web climb up my urethra and suck the cum right out of my tubes.
Absolute fucking Sigma move.
What?
So anyway,
That's
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's not really the...
Mama Susan just fucking sits us all down. Describe
How
your channel.
dare you presume her gender?
Yeah,
she
that's kind of
she
cringe.
sits
Dog.
us all down.
That's
It's
a
like
fucking hate crime, dude.
describe your channel, and we just show her that.
No.
Yeah, we talk about Tarantino movies and also spider waifus.
I mean, it's
Yep.
not
It's a neat
Those two
podcast,
things
but,
completely correlate, okay?
it's not the worst choice.
It's niche, but, you know, it's a
you
shame.
get
Explains why we
weirdly
don't have
well
an audience.
populated because there's an uncomfortable amount of spider waifus.
Number one, the one from Dark Souls. I wish I actually knew her name.
Anyway, we fucking watched the movie.
We certainly did.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It was the final movie in our Quentin Tarantino arc. Now, I was under the assumption this was his last movie, but Ninja, you said that that's not?
I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be one more, because I think there's supposed to be 10, isn't there?
Yeah,
I
he said
believe that
he-
was
he-
the original plan.
he said he
Yeah.
wanted to do 10, and this was his 9th.
Yeah, so, but I don't think there's been any announcements as far as what the 10th one is, though, right? Because the Star
No.
Trek one doesn't count,
It's Star
allegedly.
Trek.
I don't
What if it
think that's
was?
happening.
I thought.
Well, I know, but it's like still potentially, like, you know,
Potentially, it's
Yeah.
up in the air, as they say.
Fair enough.
I just want to see Spock call someone a ninja in space. Okay.
Yep.
No, he just...
It's
I mean,
Worf,
it is
but
the
it's
most
Samuel L.
logical of
Jackson.
slurs.
Wait, Spock is played by Samuel Jackson, dude.
I
Actually,
said Worf, but yeah, I mean, either way, I mean,
I was gonna say, wait, you're like unironically selling me on this movie, though. So,
No, Worf would be played by Quentin Tarantino.
so everybody can say, "Shut up, Worf." I
And
don't
then
know
it
anything
gets
about
blown
Star
up.
Trek. I don't know about Star Trek, but I know about Shut Up, Worf.
No, you mean shut up, Wesley?
No,
'Cause,
there's like a fucking 5-minute compilation of like
that-
Worf offering ideas and everybody going, "That's stupid. Shut up."
Well, yeah, they don't tell him to shut it. They're just like, no, denied. Like he's
But
constantly.
yeah,
trying
he
to...
is always the one who proposes that they fucking shoot people, and Picard, him.
It's-
He's always just like, hey, you know, maybe shooting people in the face isn't the civilization that we want to be if we're gonna, you know, prosper and not just become diet Klingons.
I thought.
And Worf is always a little bit disappointed. And then when Worf goes back to other Klingons, he's like, he's looked down on, like he's a bitch. Like he's too human for the Klingons, and he's too Klingon for the humans. He's torn
then-
between being based and cringe.
And then he married a fucking Trill that was once a Klingon. Wait, have none of you
Wait.
guys seen Deep Space Nine?
No, as far as I'm concerned, he had a child with another Klingon, and that's about it.
Yeah, no, he got married in Deep Space Nine to Dax.
And so, like, the Star Trek is a TV show, and what we watched today was a movie about a TV star named Rick Dalton, who's played by Leonardo DiCaprio. Fucking phenomenal actor. I think he did actually really fucking well in this entire movie.
I was actually gonna make the joke of like when that little girl was like, that was the best acting I ever saw. That's just any little girl trying to just talk to Leonardo DiCaprio on any of his movies.
That's a weird implication. Please don't ever say that out loud again.
Oh wait, yeah, that.
Alright,
anyway.
always coming through with the hot takes.
Uh, he's literally Pim from Smiling Friends. He loves kids. That's not something you want to yell out, Pim.
Don't be-
Yo, can I talk to you for a second?
But yeah, initial thoughts. We'll start with Tom, since he gave us that enlightening
glorious
intro.
Yeah.
Well, it's it's kind of hard to like say exactly, because so much of this film, I think we can all agree, we're talking about it as we're watching it, can be like cut as harsh as that sounds.
Yeah.
And it just seems to be a whole lot of, love letters to Hollywood and like the 60s Hollywood aesthetic, and showing all these old TV shows and movies, and Sharon Tate going to the movies, and Roman Polanski, and all these things. And the actual plot, I guess, is mainly centered around Rick and Cliff. And it's just like, that seems to be, I mean, it's there, like you know their characters, but it's like almost like you just get snippets of it. Like you seem to get like snippets of it, of things, like snippets of Rick and Cliff, and snippets of Hollywood stuff and Sharon Tate stuff. And yeah, it's kind of hard to judge, but it's definitely like I think at the bottom of his filmography.
And not necessarily say that's a horrible thing, but
No.
Slur, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, kind of jumping off that, like the word I want to go to is maybe unfocused. Like I described it earlier as a vibe movie, and
Yeah.
as I was kind of like watching out the rest of the movie, I kind of had that in the back of my head, and the way I would sort of distill it down is narratively, it's kind of meandering, but like thematically, it's quite focused. So you do have like this, this transitional period in Hollywood, and you have fucking Leonardo DiCaprio going through that, and he has his old perspective, and he's kind of like our anchor point. And then you have, Brad Pitt kind of being brought along for the ride. But then you also just have the general the world around them. And the world around them is just Quentin Tarantino fully recreating the 60s because he just really fucking loves that period. So you have this incredible fucking set design and really immersive world of 1960s Hollywood that sucks you in, and you have this story that doesn't lock you in event to event. You just get these like disparate scenes, some of which are fucking incredible, and others can sometimes feel maybe not the most necessary. But overall, it's like you just get this weird flowing story that just ends up in this action scene. So at the end of it, you don't really know what the story was, but you absolutely know what the movie was kind of saying. Which I kind of ham-fistedly summed up as vibe movie.
That's fair. That's fair. Ninja, what did you think?
I agree that it's a little bit meandering. You kind of have two separate storylines going on in the same movie, and then they sort of interconnect at the end. You do have all of the very historical, Manson and Sharon Tate stuff, and alluding to those events, but most of it is Rick and Cliff. And I do think that there's a lot of good stuff there. But it's almost like it's kind of just, there's few moments, and then there's like that meandering stuff in between. Like he didn't really know how to connect them, which is not something he usually struggles with. So it's a little odd for a Tarantino movie. Because like the scene we were talking about, the scene with Rick, and the little girl on the set of the Western, like that was really good stuff. I really like the scene of Cliff when he goes home and he's by himself, and you kind of see like, even though he's basically best friends with like a Hollywood celebrity, this is how he lives his life. Like this is how he exists.
Very based. Rick Dalton, thanks for joining us today. What did you think?
I think it was really. I can't do an impression of him. I thought it was. I was immediately
I can't do it. I
You
can't
thought
fucking
about
do
it.
it.
Can't fucking do it.
Mister,
No,
your
the-
goddamn lines and fucking embarrass yourself, you fucking alcoholic.
No, I.
I gotta stop being cringe. I'm gonna stop it right now.
That scene where he flips out, that's me anytime I'm like trying to do like any of my videos and I just fucking
But you could have just said that's you and just stopped right there. Full stop. It's fine.
You're gonna
Yeah.
stop drinking. Takes a whole swig from the flask. Yeah, I like the movie, but there's just some scenes that I don't want to say like I almost have an allergic reaction to, but I don't like a lot of Margot Robbie's scenes. They're almost, I view them as a fucking waste of time.
Okay, so you brought that up a couple times while we were watching the film. You understand, like, historically the significance of this movie, right?
Because
at
she
least
was
this
murdered by the
story?
cultists that
Okay,
show
but
up at
do
the
you
end.
know who Sharon Tate was?
A really big Hollywood actress, I would
Yes,
assume.
that's why it was a high-profile murder.
Mhm.
She was very popular, very famous. She was in the very like beginnings of her career. She was taking off. She was huge, and then she got snuffed out in like a horrific fashion. It was terrible, and the country had never seen anything like that before.
And for reference, she was 26 when she died.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, she was
Oh,
one of
wow.
the originators of the deadly 20s for stars. 26 especially, for some reason. A lot of stars overdosed around that age. But
Oh,
yeah, it's
was
like,
it
if you know
27?
that,
Yeah, it's
then
27.
just seeing her on screen is supposed to be like a tension building thing. Like, it's just dangling the knife above your head, because if you just use it as a historical reference point, you're waiting for that knife to drop. And the big
Right.
subversion of the movie is that, this is not just Hollywood histories, but this is once upon a time. So we're actually telling a story, a more glamorized and hero-centric version of things, where the cultists got exactly what they fucking deserved.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's what's it called? I think the term is
Revisionist history, yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
literally Inglorious Bastards, like none of the shit in Inglorious Bastards happened, despite being filled with characters who are based on real people.
Or
thought-
historical fiction,
That's what I was
maybe,
about to
is
say.
another
Also,
way
yes.
to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Although,
terms,
with the amount of it that is actually real, and they just changed like an event, I think that goes to revisionist. Whereas
Yeah.
historical fiction is more like everything is going to be accurate to a time period, but none of the events happened.
Yeah.
I think that's
Right.
the distinction.
Okay.
in terms of like what I really enjoyed of this movie, I really like the bits with the cowboy stuff because it feels like a love letter to old style Hollywood, which is one of the only things I actually liked out of I don't know if you guys have seen Hail Caesar, god awful movie, but bits where they show like how films were made, like the sets, like moving actors from one genre to another, how films were edited back then. Like, it's just something I just glue my eyes to. So when they were making the Western TV show, and you hear like the camera like swiveling back to its starter position, really enjoyed shit like that.
Yeah.
I do get wary around Hollywood love letters, though, because they can feel a little bit masturbatory at times.
A little bit.
Oh yeah, that's
but
why
I feel like this was
that's-
a little more chill. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind
and
of,
this is the thing that makes it, at least for me, is just the fact that while all of the scenes of Ricky Bobby filming his cowboy scenes with the little girl, it is a love letter, and it is just showing us that old school way of making movies, but it's also like a very revealing character thing in and of itself. Like, it's not
Mhm.
relying on that nostalgia.
right. And when I say more the Hollywood love letter, that's why I brought up something like Hail Caesar, because it more shows off the mechanics of how
Or
Hollywood
La
worked
La
back
Land.
then.
La
I've
La
actu-
Land is so fucking obnoxious in how, like, hey, Hollywood, let me just fucking suck your dick for like 3 hours.
I've actually
And
never seen
also
La La
jazz.
Land. I only
I
know
don't
the meme
hate
that
the
it.
movie, but I hate that aspect of the movie.
I only know the meme that it was like Moonlight, La La Land, like the
Yeah, it
Oscars.
fucking absolutely sweeped because it sucked Hollywood off so hard.
Mhm.
Well,
And it
but
was so obvious that that's what happened.
while it is definitely a love letter to Hollywood in a lot of ways, I think there are a lot of like really touching moments, like especially with Leonardo's performance, like an
Mhm.
actor sort of. It's almost kind of like a fuck you to Hollywood in a way, because it shows how much like Hollywood chews up and spits out actors and actresses. They
Right.
just use
Yeah.
you for what while they can, and then as soon as you're no longer the it thing, you're going to be replaced.
Down to
And
the producer actually laying out specifically how they fucking do it with what they
Yes.
cast you in.
Yeah,
Like
you
that
become
shit
heavies.
is brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah,
And
what do you
then
think of the
River,
movie?
as I said, go ahead, tell us what you think.
Well, I don't know what was happening the first time I watched it. I know I watched it with Wyatt, but
That was the problem.
now that'll do it.
well,
Hey, drop a quarter in the shit on Wyatt bucket.
I was gonna say, what the hell?
Shut
I
up,
love how
Tommy.
we moved up from jar to bucket.
We didn't even have jar. We went to bucket because
we
Not
need a
even a
bigger
normal,
container.
not even a normal
We're gonna
bucket. It's
need
like
a
a
bigger boat.
5-gallon bucket from like Home Depot.
All right, but anyway, go ahead, River.
Yeah, but like the first time I saw it, like at the end, I was like, "This was awful." I just hated it. Like I didn't even like the ending. I mean, I liked what it symbolized, or not really symbolized, but what it was. You know, the cultists getting their just desserts or whatever. But it just, for the most part, just didn't do it for me.
Do you
But
remember
this,
why?
I know exactly why, and I was like, I'm
Uh-huh.
wondering if, would you like to share
well,
it, Sarah?
Uh-oh.
oh, I
What'd
was
you
just
do?
gonna say because uh I don't always dig the super violent moments.
That's fair.
And it was just really like, oh, in your face, and the screaming and all that stuff was kind of hard to watch.
The
But
violence is pretty fucking brutal.
It's
Not gonna lie.
pretty I wasn't exaggerating. I feel like fuck, what was her name? It wasn't Sunny. I feel
The
like
ginger?
no, the other
Oh,
one.
Ezra Miller.
Yeah, Ezra Miller. I feel like she gets it the hardest, like potentially in
yeah,
all
yeah.
Tarantino movies. Like it's fucking wow.
I mean, as a
Like,
very close second, the ginger that gets her entire fucking face folded.
yeah, but we're talking about two characters from the same movie,
Yeah.
comparing them to literally all the other movies.
God.
Like, you know what I mean?
He was
It's
trying
pretty
to make
fucking
up.
rough.
It's like he was trying to make up for the lack of
Action.
that in the rest of the movie.
I like how you guys are all
I
all
think
cringing.
he knew how much he's kind of playing to Hollywood being his primary audience here, and he knows how much people like really hated what happened, and so seeing those cultists get absolutely brutally punished is very satisfying if you grew up in California, like if you knew the circumstances of what happened, like
Yeah.
you want to see that.
Tarantino gets accused quite a lot of being gratuitous with this shit, and something like this, something that rocked Hollywood this hard, gives him like absolute carte blanche to be as gratuitous as he fucking likes, and I think that's kind of what he just shot for.
We watched a
Okay.
person's face cave in with a
Yeah.
fucking can of dog food being thrown at them.
I like how well that can of dog food was set up, though.
Oh,
Yeah,
like
I mean-
even just the sound design of that hit, it's really fucking crunchy.
Yeah.
So the point is that I was trying to get at was this time I enjoyed it a lot more. I don't know, somehow I got the vibe, I got the characters. It didn't drag for me as much as it did the first time, and I didn't mind that it was kind of meandering or whatever. So I don't know. It's still not at the top of the list, but it might not be all the way at the bottom either.
I think you would definitely
That's
confirmed it's not
100%
a.
fair. Like we can talk about whether or not it's at the bottom of
Hey,
the list.
it's not Jackie Brown, okay?
Well,
Yeah.
I was gonna say I bet you would probably confirm it's not a Valentine's Day movie, because that's what I was digging at, because we
Oh,
watched
that's
it
right.
on
That's when we
Valentine's Day.
watched it.
No, yeah,
God.
no, yeah.
Literal taxi cab vibes, bro. Good job.
No, yeah. It was like, oh, it's Valentine's Day. This was definitely while we were dating, and it's just like, let's watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I immediately just went back to like my virginity may as well have like reconstructed
Oh no!
itself.
Did you accidentally think that this was La La Land?
Just got mixed up.
Wow,
Once
Ryan
Upon a Time
Gosling's
in
beating
La
the
La Land.
fuck.
Both had such high expectations because I don't think either of us had seen it. And
Oh, really?
yeah, so we didn't really know what we were in for. And I think that's why I enjoyed it more this time. I knew what I was getting into, and it kind of surprised me.
There is
And
something to be said about the second watch, to be fair. Like catching up on shit that you like haven't like noticed or anything from the first movie. Like this was my second full watch through of this movie as well, and there was a detail that I completely got fucking wrong.
the
What would
Bruce
that
The
Lee
be?
dream
thing.
thing.
The Bruce Lee thing.
Oh,
Like I
yeah.
thought the Bruce thing was like him imagining what the scenario was, but I didn't realize that was why he wasn't at the place. So
Did you
So-
figure out why that was a thing that you took away
'cause
from it?
I just missed the fucking part where he was thinking back about the Kato thing, and I guess it just like it didn't click in my mind. So like I said, now looking back on it, it's really fucking stupid that it's like, wait, why is Bruce Lee playing in this cowboy movie that he's not fucking in? So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the more I look back on it, yes, I was fucking stupid.
So to use that to segue off, we had almost started a
Let's-
conversation. We had to stop. Okay, Bruce Lee. I've
So-
heard conflicting reports on this.
So if I remember correctly from my researching of this movie, because I was really curious about it myself when I first watched it, apparently the Bruce Lee Bruce Lee family was really upset with his portrayal in this movie.
I mean, they are quite protective of his image.
Yes, but the problem is, I feel like what Quentin represented
Made him look like an asshole.
wasn't inaccurate.
Yeah,
So-
that's kind of my
Well,
takeaway as well.
So clear
But
the
here's
image
the
for
thing.
me.
So
What-
when you're talking about somebody's like legacy, even if what Quentin showed was like 100% true, that's still not exactly portraying Bruce in like a great light.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
the truth is unflattering, they're going to argue against the truth.
But the problem is, like, I feel like truth is something that's not really talked about with, especially with Bruce Lee, because he's always considered the greatest fighter in the world. He's always considered
Yeah.
the American dream immigrant story. You know what I mean? And to be fair, some of that stuff is real, but a lot of the times when he's portrayed in any kind of media, it's always flowery language.
He
But,
was
like,
basically given a fucking sainthood post-mortem.
But like the thing is, like if he was actually a dickhead, then like not a lot of people knew that, and I feel like there is some merit to knowing the truth. Though I
Well,
can't see
the
how it would
man
be
was
upsetting.
incredibly skilled, and he knew it. So yeah, he could be a little bit of an arrogant prick sometimes.
Mhm.
Also, he was primarily a movie star.
Well, but
And
here's the
that's-
thing: it's not mutually exclusive. Both things can be true.
Yes.
It's kind of like a D&D character sheet. Like you can have ranks in being a nice guy and being the best at the fighter, but also being an asshole. It's about how many points do you put in each rank.
Hmm.
You know, it's
And also
like,
context as well. It's like the
yeah,
context in which
he
he
might
was
have
an
just been having a
asshole,
bad day.
or it's just when he's talking to like other stunt guys and other martial artists, he's going to be talking all this big shit. But if he goes out and he meets the fans, he's probably going to be chill, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
I do know, no matter what, he was a massive show off.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, if you're going to get into literally the movie business on the back of being a martial artist, being a show off is kind of like a prerequisite.
Well, right, especially since most interviewers would just ask him to show off.
So it kind of became like a very big part of his persona, especially in Hollywood. That he would have like this kind of swagger about him, and he would kind of like big it up to the stunt guys that he did see as being beneath him, because even though he was in the back with them, like getting ready to like prepare stunts and shit, he was a star. These were doubles. People didn't even know their names. So
I lo-
yeah, I fully believe he could have been a bit of a prick sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine he would have an ego with the first off, nobody hit Bruce.
Furthermore, I also believe that every once in a while, somebody with a bit more of like a brawlerish kind of background might have put him on his ass. Like
Yeah.
he was skilled. Like he was a
He,
professional
like,
martial artist.
yes,
But
let it not be understated. He's like the father of like modern martial arts, like in MMA, but he was very small.
yeah, and quite light. And if
And
he's going up against like some guy who's doubling for like someone who's like 6'3" and like 3 foot wide, he's gonna get his fucking ass thrown into a car.
And rather hard. Because
yeah,
both doors got caved in. Do you know how hard you'd have to actually be thrown into those doors?
I mean, this was the 60s, so cars were made out of like fucking tin cans.
I don't know. I
No.
feel like they were tougher.
No,
back-
it's
they
actually
They were
the
way
opposite.
tougher.
They were tougher back then. If that was today, maybe, but like, yeah, if it was a fucking metal car back then, yeah, he was fucking thrown.
Yeah, which honestly is like, how do you like? You would have had broken fucking ribs from that. Back first, you'd have a back injury too.
I mean, that does explain why she was so very upset when she came in. Saw a fucking car.
What the fuck did you do to my car?
Vroom vroom. Oh, sorry.
wife murdering piece of shit.
Allegedly.
So,
Allegedly.
okay.
Allegedly.
So yeah, before we get off the Bruce Lee thing, yeah, it's like I said, it's I can understand why people would be upset, but like there's some merit to truth though, and like
And the reason for people being upset is because we've gotten so very used to this sort of like sainthood version of Bruce Lee. And I think that's actually kind of unhealthy.
a little bit.
And it's not just him. No, it's him because like in the 70s and 80s there's also this whole like macho thing, like dudes were really into kung fu movies. And so he just got like elevated to like this rock star level. You don't talk shit on Bruce Lee because Bruce Lee's the man.
Yeah, he'd fuck you up, of course, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like that just kind of like became like this self-perpetuating loop. And eventually, nobody was allowed to even imply that maybe the guy had a bit of a fucking ego.
Mhm.
Deserved or not.
And
Especially
maybe karate was a little bit of bullshit, but you know.
Well, I was gonna say, you guys ever heard like the Burt Ward story? When Batman and Robin had a crossover with Green Hornet. It was supposed to be that there would be a fight scene between Kato and Robin, and Bruce Lee was like, "What the fuck?" So he would just basically troll. He would troll the guy who played Robin. Burt Ward, right? That was the name of the actor.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds right.
He would just send, because they apparently lived in the same building, and he just constantly fucking troll him until like the day of shooting. Bruce just started walking towards him with that like Sigma energy, and Burt just started fucking running. He's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, who was he talking about in the movie? I forgot the name.
Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali.
Cassius Clay. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and Cassius Clay would have fucked him up.
Yeah,
for the
it's
record.
just what fucking wrecked him. He wasn't a super heavyweight. He was a heavyweight though, right?
I think super heavyweight
I
wasn't even a
believe-
thing yet.
Yeah. So yeah, he was a heavyweight then. What's the fucking I think the UFC game labeled Bruce Lee as a
welterweight.
welterweight. Yeah. So it's like,
Pretty
what's
sure.
the fucking weight difference between them?
Almost 75 pounds, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
So and Ali was also a very big motherfucker too. So
Yeah, you like if you saw him in a suit, that hit a lot of muscle, and then once you see him in the ring, it's like, oh, that man is fucking.
that was not even like
built.
muscle. He's fucking large. Like he's long. His arm
Yeah.
length is probably double Bruce Lee's.
That was actually one of the things that like helped him out a lot when he started. I remember it's just the man had reach, and as he got better and better, that reach just got more and more bulky. And as he got stronger, he also got faster.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Like it was just a
in-
meteoric rise to fame.
Yeah, he was. I was about to point out. It's like
Even-
he was also just fast as fuck with the rope a dope and the shuffle.
You even dream about beating me, you better wake up and apologize, motherfucker.
it's
It's legit one of the greatest fucking lines I've ever heard in my life.
an
It's legit-
incredible fucking line.
It's
or
so
the,
fucking good.
or the you keep calling me Cassius Clay when you're in the ring. You're gonna call me Muhammad. It's like, and then you cut to the fight. It's like, what's my name? As he's beating the shit out of him.
And don't ever forget the little hip wiggle after he
Yeah.
dodged like 7 punches. Ali was the shit.
No, yeah. If you've never seen any clips of Muhammad Ali fight, I beg you, just fucking watch it. Just watch him fight. It was amazing.
And I was about to say what's that picture called? Isn't it called the world's greatest photograph?
Oh yeah, with him striking the
Standing
pose.
over, I think it was Foreman. God, it's been.
Do you? No, it wasn't. It wasn't for. It was. Do you know actually the story behind that? It like
he knocked him out in fucking like 10 seconds or some shit like that.
It's also he believed the guy was throwing the fight. So when that face, he's saying "get up." Actually, he was pissed.
It's good shit. So yeah,
Every
anyway.
description of Muhammad Ali makes him sound like a fucking Mortal Kombat character.
It's
I
weird
mean,
how
I mean, he
There's a
literally shows
reason
up in
wh-
Baki.
I was about to say there's a reason
Yes.
why like Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat, like pretty much every fucking Western fighting game has a black swagger boxing character like in it. It's because they're all fucking Ali references.
or in the Street Fighter, they're Tyson references.
Well, that too.
Yeah,
Dudley
maybe
was
Tyson is an Ali reference.
maybe maybe the Ali was in us all along.
So anyway, you guys were a bunch of haters and talked to.
Yeah, like I do agree with Sir, and like it is aimless, but there is a lot of good stuff in this movie, and like particularly like what Slur was bringing up earlier is one of my favorite moments in the movie was like when they're what was the name? Do you remember the name of that show he was doing?
Bounty
Bounty Law.
No, not that show. The show he did with the little girl
Oh fuck! Did we even get the
with
name of it?
Timothy. With Timothy.
Wasn't
Yeah.
it Frontier? Or no, it was
Hold on.
Lancer. Lancer.
Yeah, it was definitely named. I just can't remember the name off the top of my head.
I muted the speakers for a second. I'm gonna quickly pull it up on Amazon.
But yeah, so like I really loved like what Sir said because he brought it up too. But yeah, that whole section is just fucking cash. Like I particularly love when like he's reading the book and he just has that fucking mental breakdown. It's really fucking good.
Yeah, it's like he's talking about the story, but he's really talking about himself.
Yeah, and he's like, "How far did you
He
get?"
is easy breezy
Yeah, how far did you get? I'm about halfway through.
because his
AKA
story's not over yet.
midlife crisis.
Mm.
E.
And
What
also
was-
just like, holy shit, I might be falling off. And if I fall off, I literally won't be able to afford to live here anymore, which means I won't be able to recover my only career. I'm going to have to move back to, what did you say,
Missouri.
Missouri?
Missouri, yeah.
Zura.
Misery.
Where he's not really going to have any fucking qualifications or shit. It's like he's done. This is it. It's like, it's more than just, oh no, I won't get to be like super fucking famous anymore. Like, he's fucked.
Yeah, his life is over.
And he even makes a point of this in the movie as well. It's like, he doesn't just rent his house. He bought property there. He wanted to be a fucking citizen of Hollywood forever.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, fucking the times changed.
Times they are changing. Yeah, that whole interaction with Al Pacino, that felt like the realest shit in like the whole movie. Like it's like, yeah, you're always the villain, you always get beat up, and that's all people are gonna remember you by.
Yeah, it's a trick the studios pull to prop up the new guy. And it's like, as soon as he says it, you know that it's fucking real.
Yeah.
Especially
yeah,
back then in like the old syndicated TV days, where you had like a different star every couple of years.
Yeah, I'm sure that exact conversation has gone down in some producer's office.
Mm-hmm.
Probably word for word, too.
By Al Pacino.
By Al Pacino, yeah.
More than likely.
Like, does that
Yeah.
kind of like make the common thread of our takeaway where, meandering plot, but, pretty unified like theme or just general vibe it was going for, and some fucking excellent scenes.
Still pretty
Yes.
meaningful, yeah.
So, and this is kind of like where I kind of wanted to get to after we'd all kind of talked about it a little bit. Before we put it on, a few of you were quite confident that this was like the worst of his roster, and I wonder if you still feel the same.
Definitely not. It's definitely warmed up to me because, like I said, there is something about this. Saying about the second viewing. And like I said, I didn't remember as like enjoying the dialogue as much as I actually did. So,
Hmm.
and it's like, yeah, like pretty much every interaction in the movie is fantastic. The Margot Robbie stuff could like I still find it like not 100% necessary, but like after you guys like stating how it's like the period piece setter, because like I didn't even know about this whole Sharon Tate thing until I watched this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, that might be my takeaway as well, because I said it, it's like I for a moment I kind of become that if it's not important to the plot, cut it, which I normally am completely against.
Well, but it's important to like, in a weird way, like the whole world building of the story. Like it all centers around that one incident.
Right.
Like that is the
It's-
framework of the story.
Yeah, and I could see how if you're not familiar with that, that might end up fucking with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was that framing of the events, the real events that this was based on, that helped me appreciate it more this time. Because I kind of knew that before, like watching it the first time. Like I was familiar with the Manson murders and all that, but I didn't really have it in mind. Um, I don't know. But yeah, like I said, I think I appreciated it more this time because of all that.
I have an unfortunate, like, less than passing knowledge of the Manson murders, unfortunately. So that's why I wouldn't. I might be coming across as apathetic when Ninja was explaining that. I'm kind of just shrugging my shoulders because I'm like, oh, yeah, that probably meant something to somebody.
Wow.
I don't feel like I get the full impact of that event
Yeah, I was gonna say.
the way you're explaining it, Ninja, but I know a
So
little
okay,
bit
I
about it.
know. Here's the thing, like you have to keep in mind the time difference, right? Like we hear about gruesome, crazy shit happening all the time, but this was back in the fucking 60s. Like national news, if something was big enough to become national news, that was fucking huge. This was all long before the internet was a thing.
Right.
So the idea of somebody in Hollywood, basically like America's sweetheart type person, getting gruesomely murdered in an area of the country that was basically like thought of as safe and untouchable. Like nothing like this had ever happened before. And to somebody that was so young and had like some promising career ahead of them and was in their prime, and then you add in like literally the demonic and devil, it was very big. This fucked with a lot of people.
So
It's not like they were just murdered or in like a robbery gone wrong. This was like cult sacrifice shit.
So explain to me a bit more about the Manson murders. I take it they were a cult, and I take it they viewed Hollywood as the cesspool of sin. So
I don't know about sin,
So
Yeah.
but
They definitely drank
Manson's
the Kool-Aid,
goal,
though. That's the thing.
the helter skelter, the whole thing was basically he wanted to
incite a race war.
he wanted to incite a race war. The whole
Whoa,
reason he
what?
carried
What the
out these
fuck?
murders was to
Wait, you didn't
incriminate
know
black
this?
people.
No, this is the thing. Is
No,
I'm really unfamiliar with this case. Like I'm just.
I mean,
like,
this
what?
is also why he had the people carve swastikas into their foreheads.
Yep,
Right.
What?
Yeah, that was a thing.
that's
Look,
why I said the
dude,
Nazi
in
thing.
your own time, actually go out and like learn about the Manson shit. This shit is wild.
Do
Like
we
this
really
is like
Yeah.
oh, and bonus fact. and something I only copped on rewatch. You remember earlier in the movie, there's this guy with like long hair. He comes to the house and he's asking about the people who used to live there, but they don't live there anymore. I think that was him.
You think that was
That's
him?
what I fucking said.
I think that was Charles Manson. Because that's the way he was always described and the way he's always been
Right,
depicted.
yeah.
I think that was him. He was scoping out the joint.
It's quite possible.
Very much so. I mean, like they did name him in the movie. Like this was like we talked about during the hippie compound.
Yeah, they say Charles. Oh, I wish you could have gotten a chance to be Charles. Everybody loves him.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I feel like didn't that lined up with the timeline, right? Or am I tripping?
As far as I know.
Like I'm saying, like because remember we see him approach the neighbor's house, and then like later in the compound we do see we hear her mention Charlie. So
I didn't remember there being that many followers of his.
Well,
I
not
thought there
all
were
of them would have
like
gone out
four.
and killings and shit. Some of them
yeah,
would
not all of
would
them
have
were
been
like
lost.
true
Probably
believers.
But they would have been true believers, but not all of them would have been suitable for violent acts.
Well,
Like,
that's what I mean by
to
true
be a
believer.
cult leader, to be Charles Manson, one of the things that like made him who he was is he knew how to read people and he knew how to twist people. He
Yeah,
knew
so-
which ones he could twist to do what shit.
It's
So-
surprising how often serial killers and cult leaders are very charismatic.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
It
Oh, yeah.
shouldn't be. It's their main attribute.
right?
Yeah.
Take this with a grain of salt. On the Wikipedia for the movie, it does say the actor as Charlie. Like
Oh, well,
Ah,
shit! There you go.
Hey,
Hardcore confirmation.
again, like take grain of salt. It is Wikipedia after all.
Yeah, Wikipedia's
so
not
yeah,
always
there you
wrong.
go. Manson himself was in this movie.
There you go.
So yeah, needless to say, like, and obviously with the '60s being a fairly wholesome, good old American time, like that's part of why these murders really shocked not just the Hollywood community, but also the fucking nation as a whole. It really freaked people out because this is the kind of shit that like, oh, they're crazy, they're Satanists or whatever, but this is what really kind of started that whole scare because they were like, holy shit, this is real.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kiba agrees.
I was going to bring up how you can just hear in the background, by the way, not only a bunch of classic commercials. I don't know if you guys picked this up. They bring up how Robert Kennedy was killed. Not
Right.
how he was. You can hear that he was killed.
Wait, Robert
Yeah,
Kennedy?
because that happened.
How was Robert Kennedy killed?
He was
I only
also
know JFK was.
assassinated.
Yeah, the whole
He was also
Kennedy thing.
assassinated.
I'm a little bit more familiar with that, sir. Do you know about that?
The JFK? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it was the
JFK
aliens,
was-
like hiding under a grassy knob or something.
JFK
the
had
grassy
connections
knob.
with the mob. That's how he
Yeah.
got in there, and his family broke off from the mob, and they threatened his family.
I do know, it's like the big theory, like memes aside, is that because of his handling of the Cuba shit, the CIA or like a bunch of other organizations would have like found themselves at a severe military disadvantage if he went through with what he was going to do. So
Yeah. Needless, he rocked a lot of boats, so that's
Yeah.
why it's kind of
There's a lot of conspiracy theories around that.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
Robert-
yeah,
isn't it
Robert.
like the original conspiracy theory thing?
Yeah, kind of.
that and the moon landing, of course.
Right. But Robert
I don't know,
Kennedy was
flat Earth might predate that.
Maybe.
Robert Kennedy was killed during a speech that he was giving, I think.
He was shot.
And yeah, he was shot. Someone came out of the crowd and just, nailed him.
Damn.
Yeah, they shot him point blank. He was in the middle of talking to supporters at the embassy ballroom of the Ambassador Hotel.
Now,
And-
just because I know that it's not going to be too soon, was it something he said?
Well,
I think it's
I
because
mean, he was a supporter of the civil rights movement, and
Ooh.
he was
Dude,
more
like I said, there's a lot of fucking
more progressive.
things he
He
rocked.
was, I think he was a candidate. I don't know if he was currently a candidate for president, or just a lot of people wanted him to run. But yeah, he was definitely in the limelight.
Oh yeah, he was 4 days later he announced his presidential campaign, and just before, I think just after that Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Yeah, they were assassinated pretty close together.
Yeah, he's buried next to his brother.
Mm-hmm. But going back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, well,
I
I
was
feel like
the reason I brought it up was just the general, like, this movie does a really good job of taking you back in time. Actually,
yes,
it's like how we
definitely.
surprised you, like you were surprised when like they converted Hollywood Boulevard. They practically just dragged it back to the 60s.
Yeah.
And a lot of the
Like
old
when I describe this
cars
as a vibe movie, that's not actually a pejorative. If you like, this movie really is just sinking your entire brain back into like the 1960s, even down to the way the fucking roads looked. You know, before you could just like mass fucking cement mixer fucking tarmac onto a thing and have rollers lay it all out flat. You actually had to do that shit piecemeal with concrete. The roads looked kind of shitty, especially in hot areas. And everything in this movie kind of looked like that. It wasn't a glamorized, polished up version of Hollywood. Everything kind of had that layer of grime that just. Hollywood's kind of a grimy place.
A little bit in more ways than one.
still is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't just mean like Dorian Gray, like moral corruption manifesting, and I mean like literally just physically. It's like all the buildings are quite old, all the streets are quite old. Things don't really get refurbished a lot because fucking everything is a landmark for some reason. So you do get just a lot of actual physical degradation of shit. And back in the day, this was at a time when Hollywood was actually struggling for money. So, you know, supporting their local senator or whatever to do the roads and keep everything looking nice wasn't a priority. Things were kind of falling to shit.
And
And you see that.
And I love the comment. It's like no one's gonna watch like a spaghetti western. As me, like the funny thing about hindsight is like that's one of the most popular movie genres of all time, like in history.
But yeah, fucking Chris Pratt was in a fucking, was it Magnificent Seven?
Yes, the remake of Magnificent Seven.
Jesus Christ, just round
The
and round
remake
in
of the
circles.
remake.
Yeah.
Well, that's
The
right.
remake of the back down of the revenge.
Fucking the most popular westerns, of course, being the Man with No Name trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So, question: is what makes a spaghetti western just the fact that it's Italian, or is it other attributes
They
as
have to
well?
actually physically eat spaghetti in the movie.
No, so the whole thing about spaghetti westerns was that they were westerns that were filmed in Italy due to how dirt cheap it was to be over there.
Yeah.
a lot of
So
different-
Okay.
a
the
lot of different
cheapness
countries
and the
have different
budget
things.
also contributes. So you get things being called spaghetti westerns even if they weren't made in Italy, just because they looked as cheap and as rough and ready as the things that were.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's kind of where like a lot of the confusion comes in. Because yes, like as they said, it's like it has like an official definition, but just humans being humans, that's not always how things actually get used.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Tom, for helping us out on this. We enjoyed the shit out of all this. So, thank you. We'll see you guys next week. Jog on.